Breaking tonight, new evidence piling up in just one of a series of scandals enveloping the Obama administration, and new questions about how this may be affecting Americans' trust in their government. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Right now, at this moment, a congressional hearing is underway. Lawmakers hammering the commissioner of the IRS after we learned just over a week ago that the tax agency claims to have lost thousands of potentially critical emails sent by the former IRS official at the heart of the agency's targeting scandal when it comes to conservative groups. It all happened in the run-up to President Obama's re-election. Now there's new information tonight on the timing of the computer crash that allegedly obliterated those emails. On June 3rd, all right, follow it with me, on June 3rd, 2011, the chairman of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee sent a letter to the IRS over the apparent targeting of some conservative donors, June 3rd. 10 days later, Lois Lerner's computer crashes. 10 days, erasing emails dating back more than 2 years. Here's the email from Lerner's colleague on June 13th. She wrote, quote, "Lois's hard drive has crashed on her computer and will be without email." Also tonight, another wrinkle in this story. From 2009 to 2011, when Ms. Lerner's emails were allegedly destroyed, the IRS was working with an email archiving company. That's convenient, thank God, because they had a hard drive crash. Their backup drives overwrote themselves, so it's a good thing that they contracted with this company that specialized in recovering lost files. Taxpayer money well spent. Apparently, they don't have them either. And some skeptical lawmakers have now demanded that the IRS do a little bit more to restore America's faith in it.
Will you call the FBI? Because the integrity of your agency is absolutely at stake. We have Lois Lerner having invoked the Fifth in front of this committee, indicating that she's fearful of criminal prosecution, which should be enough for you, a man of integrity, to pause and think, maybe crimes were committed within my agency, and now that these emails are missing, maybe someone not of integrity committed a crime in destroying them. You should call the FBI. You should call for a special prosecutor.
I cannot enter into Lois Lerner's mind. I've never met her as to what she...
I ask you to pick up the phone and call the FBI, not enter Lois Lerner's mind.
I am not going to call the FBI. The Inspector General has started. When the Inspector
General... Then that is an issue of your personal integrity, because the integrity of this agency and the concern that Americans have of it is at stake.
Congressman Turner giving the IRS chief a tough time there. Joining me now, Attorney Cleta Mitchell. She represents Tea Party groups targeted by the IRS. So, Cleta, good to see you again. And now we learned that there is this group that actually contracted to back up the emails at the IRS, Sonasoft. And it would have covered the critical period. And yet, yes, mysteriously, 1 month after Lois Lerner's email account shut down, her computer crashed, the IRS canceled its account with Sonasoft. And now they say that nobody, one presumes they include Sonasoft in there, can produce the missing emails.
I don't believe that. I'm getting emails from people all over the country who are in IT specialists, some people who work for the IRS, and they say, wait a minute, we have these servers that are not in the IRS building, but they're in different locations around the country. And I had an email just this evening from someone who described the way logs are kept for servers and networks. And the IRS, as we heard tonight in this hearing, has a $2 billion with a B, annual budget for technology. And now they're saying that they just conveniently lost the most relevant emails of the central figure in this investigation, who has pleaded the Fifth to avoid potential criminal prosecution. Really? I mean, this is not a TV mystery. This is real life, and they have done the most remarkable things that I have to tell you. I am so appalled to see this commissioner of the IRS, John Kiskanen. I mean, honestly, he may never have been called a liar before, or people have never said to him before, we don't believe you, but he's going to hear that a lot more because I don't believe him. I think he just is letting people tell him what to say and is not looking beyond what they're telling him to say.
That's what Paul Ryan said to him. He said, we just don't believe you. He said, I've never had anybody question my integrity before. But the thing is, Cleta, depending on who you ask, and oftentimes it depends on their political stripes, they say that about this scandal. They say, as Koskinen did, there's no there. If you do any further investigation, it'll be a huge waste of the taxpayer's dime. And trust me, there was no nefarious conduct here. Computers crash. And in his defense, let me challenge you with this. They do. And the government is huge and doesn't invest a lot of money in fancy computers and screws up in technology all the time.
$2 billion a year for technology, Megan. Don't forget that. They always cry that they're poor, they're poor, they're poor. But they spend a lot of our money on technology. What are they spending it on? Congress voted an enormous increase in their technology budget within the last 10 years. And look, one of the things that I think is really important here is that tonight the new ploy from the IRS commissioner is, oh, we're going to have a TIGTA investigation. We're going to ask the Treasury Inspector General to investigate.
Another one.
Well, let's think about that for just a moment. Remember that the first investigation was not actually an investigation. It was an audit. The TIGTA office had 0 documents. They reviewed no documents. They only conducted interviews in the presence of Lois Lerner's designated person who sat in on every interview.
Doesn't really make you want to open up.
No, so now let's ask this question. Is this going to be a real investigation where people are going to be put under oath, where people are going to have to cough up their documents, or where the Treasury Inspector General is going to actually look at documents and conduct a true investigation? We don't know that. They use the term investigation very loosely. I don't know what it is that they're planning to do. But I can tell you the Democrats in Congress have been attacking the Treasury Inspector General, and I think that they will do the same thing. They're trying to intimidate him and that office, and they have tried to cast aspersions on his earlier report about the targeting of the Tea Party groups.
If there truly is no problem here, if there's no problem, then there should be no objection to opening up all the books, to producing all the documents, to going to the email backup company, demanding all the records. After all, we paid them. Those are our records, not the IRS's. Cleta, I got to leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
So again, the agency that demands that Americans keep their financial records for 7 years has now lost emails, wiped clean the critical hard drives, and employed a data backup company that did not back up the data. In this particular case, it's so, wow. Can you imagine trying to sell that to an IRS auditor who was coming after you? Even if no one here did anything wrong, there are questions of trust and credibility that are now reaching beyond the IRS. Mark Thiessen is the former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush and a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. I mean, that's the problem, Mark, is that they want us to give them the benefit of the doubt. And a lot of Americans are standing there with arms crossed saying, you don't deserve it.
Yeah, I think Paul Ryan spoke for millions of Americans when he looked at the IRS commissioner in the eye and said, we don't believe you. Nobody believes you. Because the problem is more and more millions of Americans don't trust what their government officials are telling them. Americans don't believe that no one at the IRS noticed that 2 years of Lois Lerner's emails disappeared, or that her hard drive crashed 10 days after she received a letter from the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee.
Her boss
or that
received
her boss received it, or that 6 other people who were targets of the investigation mysteriously had their hard drives crash as well, or that none of that information is recoverable. They don't believe any of this. When President Obama says there's not a smidgen of corruption, they don't believe. Really, not a smidgen, nothing. So why don't they believe that? Because it's not just the IRS. It's the VA scandal. It's the GSA scandal. It's Benghazi and the president telling the American people that it was all an internet video and we didn't change the talking points. It's telling the American people that you can keep your doctor and your health care plan when they knew that wasn't true. It's the president drawing a red line in Syria and not enforcing it. What people see, it's over and over. The list goes on and on.
James
people
Clapper
see this
with
government.
We don't spy on people, not wittingly. We don't collect their data. Eric Holder, I've never even heard of the potential criminal prosecution of a journalist while he's spying on James Rosen and naming him as a co-conspirator in a criminal case. I mean, the list goes on. The IRS chief, Stephen Miller, who testified before Congress about the IRS scandal and said, no, we've never targeted conservative groups, while he knew the Inspector General was investigating them for targeting. And he was asked whether that was even an issue and said no. He got called before Congress after it all came out, and he said, well, it wasn't targeting. You know, that I disagreed with that word. But he didn't tell the full truth, which is that exact allegation has been levied and we're being investigated for it right now.
Or the commissioner for the IRS, meeting with Senator Wyden and Senator Hatch a week ago, didn't tell him, omitted the fact that 6 other people had had their hard drives crashed too. So even lying by omission to the Democratic chairman of the Senate committee investigating this. So this is a pattern that's going on, not just in the IRS, but in a number of different areas. And what's happening is that people's trust in 2 things: the competence and honesty of the federal government is being decimated. And look, trust in Republicans in Congress is even lower than it is in Democrats in the White House. But the difference is Barack Obama came to office with the intention and goal of restoring trust in government. He came in as the anti-Reagan. You'll remember Ronald Reagan came in and said the most frightening words in the English language are, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." Barack Obama came with the goal of making those the most comforting words in the English language. And he has failed utterly to do that.
His critics say when the tough gets going, right? When the going gets tough, he goes political. And he, rather than taking responsibility, showing accountability, and having an honest conversation of this is why this happened, he goes to the political place, says what's politically convenient and what he thinks his supporters want to hear.
Exactly. It's a phony scandal. Just today, Josh Earnest said this is Republican conspiracy theories from the podium of the White House. I mean, people want answers from their government. They want their government to tell them the truth about what's happening. And the result is, Fox News poll just came out a couple of weeks ago, only 37% of the American people trust their government. 37%. The Gallup poll recently found that 72% of Americans think that big government is the biggest threat to the country. That includes a majority of Democrats. That's the largest number in the history of the poll. American trust in the competence and honesty of government is eroding, which is exactly the opposite of what Barack Obama's goal was coming into office.
Mark, good to see you.
Thanks, Megan.
Well, a new poll suggests Americans are also losing faith in the White House over its response to the dramatic rise of a terrorist state in the heart of Iraq. Coming up, we'll ask State Department spokeswoman Marie Harf about her boss's trip to Baghdad today, plus the fallout over her comments about Bo Bergdahl's fellow soldiers. Remember that? Marie is here, live. And new revelations tonight about the southern border crisis. Up next, the evidence that suggests the government knew this was coming, knew and planned for it months ago. Wait until you see what our guest calls the smoking gun document.
By your presence here tonight, you are telling us that the federal government, via the Department of Homeland Security, has completely failed in its job of securing our borders.